Hey guys, it is Michelle and I am here with one of my 2014 yearly reading wrap-ups. This video is the top 10 books that I read that are standalone. This does have a companion video, which is top 10 books I read in a series. Since I did read over 120 books this year, I felt justified in having the two lists, but it is two separate videos for the sake of time. At number 10 on the list is Evidence of Things Not Seen by Lindsay Lane. And this book is about Tommy. He is a high school student with Asperger's, which means a lot of people know who he is, but hardly anyone knows him very well because his social skills are just not there. He was obsessed with particle physics, but all of a sudden he turns up missing. So the police are investigating, and most of the chapters in the book are the police interviewing someone who knew Tommy. It's a one-sided conversation though, so you hear the answers that the person being interviewed is given, and you have to infer what the questions were. So that was kind of a fun little thing for the reader that the author threw in. There are a few chapters that are in third person, and they are people who come across an item that that belong to Tommy and might be part of the investigation. It keeps you intrigued the whole way. It raises a lot of questions about how well do you really know anyone and what is your responsibility there. But the amazing thing about this book is how Lindsay Lane is able to get you invested in the characters when they only show up for about a chapter each. Once in a great while, like his mom or dad are mentioned more than once, but for the most part, these characters are one chapter and gone. I would like to say that although this is classified as YA, I would consider it more adult. I thought, yes, the main character is the age of YA, but I thought a lot of the themes and content were for mature audiences. Number 9 on my list is A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness, and this is a story that is the brainchild of Siobhan Dowd, but she knew she was going to be unable to finish the story, and so she asked Patrick Ness to do the honor. And so he put his own spin on it, and it is simply beautiful. From the cover and the title, I thought this was going to be a somewhat scary story, but instead it was very sad. It is about a young man whose mother has been diagnosed with cancer, and he is struggling with that as well as the normal things that a young boy struggles with. And it was just so beautifully written, and there's artwork that goes with it that is just so appropriate. And I really recommend this book for any reader. It was really good. Number 8 on my list is Boys Like You by Juliana Stone. This was a very rare cover buy for me. It's a YA romance book, and it is set in hot and humid Alabama. And there's a young girl who is really struggling with some things that have happened in her life, and her parents decide that the best thing for her, the best medicine for her, is to go visit Grandma for the summer. So as she is visiting grandmother, of course, there is a good-looking young man who is kind of helping take care of the property, and they meet, but they don't hit it off at all. They both have a lot of baggage, so it's probably a good thing. But they keep getting thrown together, and eventually it does develop into something. But it is just fascinating how they work through all of their baggage, or at least attempt to, because there is a lot there that they are all dealing with. And there's more to it than that, of course, but it was just an enjoyable read, and I loved how complex it was. Number 7 on my list is adult fiction, and this is about a bookstore owner. It is called A Storied Life of A.J. Fikry, and the author is Gabrielle Zevin. Now, A.J. Fikry is a little bit of a crotchety man. He's not all that old. I do believe he's widowed, and he's just not enjoying life as much as he maybe probably should be. All of a sudden, someone leaves a little girl who's about 2 years old in his bookstore with a note saying, please take care of her, I'm not going to be able to, or something along those lines. So the story follows them for the next couple decades or so. And AJ is just so genuine. Every character in this story is so genuine. They don't seem flat like most story characters do. It's not like they just have two aspects to their personality. I'm not sure how Gabrielle Zevin does this, but it is simply fascinating to read about, and this story just goes along such a realistic plot, but it is just so interesting and intriguing and just a wonderful human story. My favorite character in the book was the police officer who kind of keeps an eye on AJ and the little girl and the shop. And my favorite scene in the book is where AJ goes on a first date, and it was just awkwardly hilarious. And I did love that there are situations in here that a young adult wouldn't come across and had to do more with middle age and later in life, and I just really appreciated that as an older reader myself. Number 6 on my list is Mr. Penumbra's 24-Hour Bookstore by Robin Sloan. I did listen to this on audiobook, and the narrator was Ari Fliakos, and he did an amazing job. I know I would have loved this book anyway, but getting to hear it with the voices and the inflection that he put in it was really neat, and he just does an amazing job. So I really recommend that audiobook if you're looking for one. Mr. Penumbra's 24-Hour Bookstore, it has Mr. Penumbra in it, but your main character is Clay Jannon, who has just started working at the bookstore. And you really can't see how the bookstore stays afloat because there are not that many customers. And he tries to get the owner to stock some more contemporary type books, but Mr. Penumbra just doesn't seem all that interested. In addition to the regular books, though, the store has these very weird encrypted books that people don't buy. They come in and trade out. And when someone does, he has to record in this book, which there's a whole series of books before this one where these recordings have been made, record details like what did they look like, what were they wearing, what were they talking about, what kind of mood were they in, and so forth and so on. It is very bizarre, and he's been asked by Mr. Penumbra not to look into it or not to pique his curiosity, but he just can't help himself, and he pulls in his friends one at a time into the mystery, and before long it has blossomed and gotten out of control, and even a whole bunch of people who work for the Google Corporation are involved, and it's just this fun, grown-up adventure story, and it is just neat to read. Robin Sloan's writing style is amazing. I'm pretty sure he could write about, like, buttering toast, and it would sound quaint and wonderful. So I can't wait to see what he comes up with next. Number 5 on the list is Stolen by Lucy Christopher, and this book kind of messed with me in the sense that I struggled with the ending. Well, let me explain. The story is about a teenage girl. She gets kidnapped in an airport and taken to a very, very remote area of Australia. And her captor doesn't want to hurt her, but wants to build a life with her. But she's not given a choice in this. But a lot of time goes by, and of course her feelings start to change and their relationship starts to change. And then all of a sudden the circumstances change. And the way the book ended, intellectually my brain said, hey, that is the healthy way for this book to end, and this is how things should be, and that is a perfect ending. But the emotional side of me was screaming that that's not what I wanted to happen, or that's not how it should have been. So it created this struggle inside of me, this just internal debate that is just priceless. And there are very few things I can remember doing this to me in my life. One of them was the short story, The Lady or the Tiger, and the way it did not have closure at the end. But the way Stolen did this just really made an impression on me, and I will remember this book forever, and I highly recommend it. Number 4 on my list is Maybe Someday, and I cannot talk about this book without grinning. I'm sorry. It is just such a fun read, and it is a new adult romance story. The thing that sucked me in is there's a soundtrack that goes along with it, because Ridge, the main character, plays guitar and writes songs. So as the story progresses and he writes a new song, you can go to the soundtrack and listen to the song, which was so neat. It's kind of like a guitar singer-songwriter that they got to perform the songs, and they're pretty good. It's not like top 40 stuff, but still pretty good. Ridge ends up in a love triangle, and I'm usually not too much of a fan of love triangles because someone always has to lose, but Colleen Hoover just wrote this one beautifully, and it is a win-win, and I did not know that was possible, and it just takes your heart through the ringer and breaks it and mends it and breaks it and mends it. All the while, Ridge has these crazy roommates who know each other so well and play pranks on each other and just have the weirdest relationships and the strangest things going on in the house, and it's just so fun to get a glimpse of that. And it is just a fantastic story. I did boohoo quite a bit during this book. And then in November, Colleen Hoover released Maybe Not, which is a novella that goes along with Maybe Someday. And it is from Warren's point of view, and he's one of the crazy roommates. So you relive some of the scenes that you lived through Sydney's eyes in the first book through Warren's eyes. And it is just hilarious. And there are a few revelations about what was going on in Maybe Someday that are just hysterical. And that book, maybe not, the novella, is just so fun and so flirty. And of course, it's for adults only, but so funny. Number 3 on my list is The Girl with All the Gifts, and this is by M.R. Carey. Now, this has one of those synopses. It's pretty vague, and so it could either go very badly or lean towards awesome. Luckily, this one leaned toward awesome. With the synopsis, all you know is that Melanie is a young girl, and she lives kind of in a prison cell, and every morning security guards come in and point a gun at her head and strap her into a wheelchair, and they strap down her wrists, her ankles, her neck, so she is immobilized, and they wheel her off to a classroom. She jokes with them that she won't bite, but they never laugh. And so you're like, what even is happening in this story? And it is just so good. About 25% into the book, you realize what is going on here, but it is just still fascinating. And I never knew what to expect for the next 3/4 of the book, and every time there was a surprise, it was just so satisfying and so well done. The writing was amazing, and I just appreciated this book so much. It was so refreshing to read, and I truly enjoyed it. Number 2 on my list is The Martian by Andy Weir, and this story follows Mark Watney, who is a NASA astronaut, and he has managed to get stranded alone on Mars, and no one even knows he's there in the beginning, so he has so many engineering struggles to get through to survive until the next mission to Mars arrives. And he has some supplies to work with and a shelter and that kind of stuff, but it is going to take a serious battle to survive this thing. The amazing thing about this book is his sense of humor carries him through it, and it's just so funny, and just, I can't tell you how many times I laughed out loud during this book. There is a point where he realizes, like, the novelty of what he's doing. Like, he's working so hard and he's got to stay so focused, but he realizes, hey, I'm the first person to do anything like this on a planet other than Earth. And he realizes, you know, how big that is. And so he's all like, take that, Neil Armstrong. Well, of course, no one even knows he's doing it, and so that makes it even funnier. But his sense of humor is just remarkable. And there is quite a bit of technical writing in the book. There's things about math and science and computer technology, but you can pretty easily tell when it's getting pretty deep in those subjects, and you could gloss over it if you wanted to. The nerd in me loved all of that, but if you're not into that, you could gloss over that and the story wouldn't lose anything because of that. And number 1 on my list, my favorite read of the year, is Making Faces by Amy Harmon. This was, I think, the 3rd book I finished this year. But it is just stupendous, and on its surface, it's about Ambrose Young, who goes off to war and comes back disfigured, but there's a girl in town who's always kind of had a crush on him and their relationship. But it's so much bigger than that. It's really about this whole small community in Pennsylvania and how the whole war and things that happen affect them, and how Fern and Ambrose try to define a relationship among all of this. It deals with issues like teenage pregnancy, and what is the role of a minister in a community, and living with disabilities and living life to the fullest. And this book will make you laugh. It will make you cry. It will make you feel silly. It will make you feel sad. It will make you angry. It is just, I don't know how she crammed so much into the book, but I devoured it in a day. And I think I still remember the vast majority of it, and it has just really stuck with me. It is that good. It will be a reread in my future, but I'll wait until I feel like I've lost some of the elements of the story. Anyway, thank you for watching, and happy reading, everyone.